Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Last week on the Worry-Free Retirement, we shared with you the concept of the retirement window of opportunity, which is that period of time in one's retirement planning life when savers might enjoy the most flexible time to use and enjoy their retirement savings that has been previously locked up inside their 401k plans. This window of opportunity begins at the age of 59 and a half and ends at age 72. It's something I refer to as halftime. You see, halftime is that window of opportunity that provides the most flexibility and the least amount of government hassle and intervention to use and enjoy your 401k plan. Yet, as easy as it might seem for savers to want to finally start enjoying some of this money that they've worked so hard to save, time and time again I meet savers who are trying to retire worry-free, yet are in a constant state of confusion over these complicated and possibly penalizing tax laws around their 401k plan. Of course, what are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to use and enjoy this money at the least amount of taxes, knowing that one day they're going to have to pay them? Well, last week we talked about one of the more complicated 401k tax rules that comes along when you turn age 72, something the government refers to as the Required Minimum Distribution, or RMD, and the penalties you will incur if you don't take your RMD when the government tells you to. Today, we're going to talk about another window of opportunity that most people miss out on, one that could prove to save you and your kids thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of unnecessary taxes. It's a planning technique which, unlike the RMD, is not affected nor determined by your age, and it's something we call the Roth Conversion, which, of course, is the topic of today's program. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, Roth Conversion Specialist and Fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we show you how to potentially save thousands and thousands of dollars in taxes on that tax-infested 401k or IRA that you've got there, let me introduce America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, and along with his favorite sidekick, Mr. Derek Hudson. But first of all, Aaron, I've got a question to ask you. If there was something you could do today, something you could take action on right now that might save you and your family thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars later, would you want to know about it?
Well, sure.
Okay, well, very good then. So let's use this example, Aaron. Let's imagine that you're complaining to me over at work and you're just saying, me and Jessica have these huge electric bills and we've been running our air conditioner. It never seems to cut off. And I would probably say, well, Aaron, would it be logical that you might want to have a specialist, a heat and air specialist, to look at your house? How would you respond to that?
I mean, that'd be logical.
Okay. And then if the person came over and started snooping around the house and all of a sudden came back to you and Jessica and said, Mr. and Miss Orander, you got a problem. Did you realize there was a window in the back of your house that's wide open and it's letting out all your air conditioning? What would you say to that? Would you want to get it fixed?
Let's close that window.
Right, especially if it didn't cost you anything. So there you have it, folks. There's a good example. So to convert that high electric bill of Aaron's into an affordable bill, all you got to do is shut the window. And therein lies the problem, folks. Most of you, and you don't see this because we're in the financial world, most of you have your financial windows wide open and you're causing yourself many, many unnecessary taxes. So when I return, I'm going to show you how to shut that window and try to keep more of your money in your pocket as we talk about something called a Roth conversion. I'm Tony Walker. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Wondering how much money you'll need to retire? Probably a lot less than you think. I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and for the past 36 years, I've helped thousands of savers determine when to retire and how much money they'll need in retirement, and I can help you too. To meet in person at no cost or obligation, let me invite you to log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number on your screen. We look forward to talking with you soon. His name was Judge Learned Hand. Born in 1872, Judge Hand served on the United States District Court and later the United States Court of Appeals, and before passing away in 1961, Judge Hand was attributed to numerous wise quotes about money, taxes, and life. One of my favorite of Judge Hand's quotes is this one: "The law does not require one to pay more in taxes than the law requires." No more is this statement true, especially when it comes to dealing with something I refer to as the tax tumor. The tax tumor is that hidden tax that you cannot see but is definitely there. It's the tumor buried inside your retirement account as a result of all of those pre-tax monies you've been saving away into your 401k, into your IRA, 403b, TSP, and yes, even that company-sponsored lump sum pension some of you are still lucky enough to have. In other words, there is a price to pay one day for all of those years of these pre-tax savings. You see, just like a real tumor embedded in your body that will over time grow if not treated, so too the tax tumor will grow as well. Problem is, most savers don't even know that they have a tax tumor, and if they do, they aren't sure how to treat it. Well, I do. And one treatment plan that might offer help is what is known as a Roth Conversion. Well, what is a Roth Conversion? And is there a certain time or window of opportunity one can convert their tax-infested 401k into a tax-free asset? Well, before I further explain what a Roth conversion is and how it works, let's first review the window of opportunity we spoke of last week on our show that deals with what you can do between the ages of 59 and a half and 72. Oh, by the way, just in case you missed last week's show, be sure, Aaron, to tell folks how they can watch past episodes of the Worry-Free Retirement.
Sure thing, Tony. I'd be happy to. Folks, all you got to do is go to youtube.com. That's youtube.com and type in the search bar Tony Walker Financial, and you'll see Tony's smiling face right there. Just click on that.
Thank you, Aaron. So last week we talked about the critical planning opportunities to use and enjoy more of your money during a period of life I call halftime, which is between the ages of 59 and a half and 72. That's right, I call it the no strings attached period because this is the period of time where the government isn't hounding you and telling you what you have to do with that 401k plan. But why these two ages, Tony, you ask? Well, because in our politicians' infinite wisdom, this is what the law says we can do and what we can't do. You see, folks, the moment you realize that much of this money socked away in your 401k is really not yours and certainly not in your control, is the moment that you'll get up off that couch and do something about it. So what are the options we have for dealing with this tax-infested 401k plan? Let's take a look. Well, our window of opportunities on this include, number one, certainly we can spend it. You know, I always say $1's worth more in your pocket and spent today than it is maybe out there risking it in the stock market and the fears of inflation and all the stuff that goes with that. So obviously we could spend some of that money now. Number two, we could give it. That's right, folks. You could take that money out of the 401k, pay the taxes now. Many of you are in a very low tax rate, and give that money away tax-free to those you love. Next, we could mailbox it. I love this one. You see, when you have mailbox money in place and you kick on that lifetime income, and many times that'll take advantage of the 401k, of the RMD, and we can even convert that into tax-free cash as well, which leads to our next point, and that is you can convert it. So let's focus on our topic today, which is this idea of what's called a Roth conversion. Well, best of all, there is no particular window that the government allows one to do a Roth conversion because unlike the RMD, which is based on age, the Roth conversion is not. So what is the best way to explain how a Roth conversion works and how it might possibly save you literally thousands of dollars in taxes now and also taxes that would have to be paid normally had you left that tax-infested thing to your kids? Well, what I'm going to use to explain this, and this is some pretty cool stuff, I call this the parking garage concept. So let's set the stage, and I talk about this in the book Live Well, Die Broke. Let's set the stage and imagine you go into a downtown area like Louisville, Kentucky, and for whatever reason, you've never seen a parking garage. You don't know how they work. You don't know how you're supposed to pay. You don't know how long you're supposed to stay in there. But anyway, you pull up to what's called the pre-tax garage. And you pull up to the gate. There's a gate there. You take your ticket. You don't know what's going on. You grab the ticket out of there, and you pull in there. And I don't know, maybe you stay overnight a couple of nights in Louisville and do some shopping and whatever, and you finally go back to your car to get out, and you leave the parking garage, and you notice at the exit, there's a guy standing there, and he's going, well, that'll be $100. And you're like, $100? How in the world did you calculate $100? To which he replies, the longer you stay, the more you pay. So let's stay on this just a second, Derek. So what happens, folks? This is you right now. If you have a pre-tax 401k, IRA, it doesn't matter. You're in this parking garage and the government's watching you. They're the ones standing there when you leave the parking garage. And believe me, the more money you have in there, the longer you wait to use it, the more in taxes you're going to have to pay. So what's a Roth conversion got to do with parking garages? Well, that wasn't a pleasant experience. So the guy opens the gate for you, you give him a $100 bill, and you drive off and you're thinking, man, last time I ever parked in one of those pre-tax parking garages. So now we fast forward, maybe it's next year, you drive back into downtown Louisville, you're not going to park in a pre-tax garage, and you stumble across this thing. And you're like, hey, that looks new. That's called the Roth garage. I wonder what that is. So you think it's got to be better than the pre-tax garage. But there's that guy standing there. He's in the entrance, not the exit. And he says, that'll be $20. And you're like, what do you mean it'll be $20? The last guy charged me when I left. And he explains to you, no. This is the Roth Conversion parking garage. In fact, you give me $20. Let's go on in, Derek. So he goes in there and pays the $20, stays a couple of days. Here's the good news. After 2 days, he exits the garage. No little man standing there. He leaves the garage and pays zilcho. They're saying, Tony, how did that work? Well, because he had already paid the tax up front. You see, folks, that's the beauty of it. When you do a Roth conversion, you're paying the man up front. You're getting that tax out of the way. And why is this so important in retirement planning? It is hugely important because as we look forward, when we try to figure out what we're going to do with this money, how much you're going to leave to your kids and grandkids on a tax-free basis, from a planning standpoint, you now know what the tax would be, which in this case, let's assume you did the whole conversion, which I'm not suggesting that, it would be completely tax-free. All of the money, all of the growth at your death, all tax-free. Now, before we get too far on this, before we take a break, let me remind you, there are pros and cons to a Roth conversion. So next week on the show, we're going to do Window of Opportunity Part 3, and during that show, I'm going to actually show you who a good candidate is for a Roth conversion. So good stuff coming your way next week. All right, we're going to go into the next segment. This is going to be a hilarious segment, a lot of fun, because when we return, I'm going to have in the studio our own office manager in Louisville, my own friend and colleague, Gina Tutwiler, and she's going to talk about a live well, die broke moment that she's created for her and her family, and guess what? Me and Susan this past weekend. I better get a cup of coffee for this one. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back. Stay tuned. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement and our Live Well, Die Broke moment. Boy, this is a humdinger, as I like to say. That's me on the left. That's my wife, Susan, going this way. Our own Gina Tutwiler, our Louisville office manager, and her husband, who we affectionately refer to as just Tut. Now, this was taken this past weekend on their boat over in Land Between the Lakes, and boy, we had a lot of fun. Here's a couple of shots of us. There's me and Susan. I learned that's called the bow, folks. That's the bow of the boat. Now there's Susan. Leave it there just a second, Derek. This was hilarious. So Susan, her favorite movie is Titanic. Actually, I like this movie quite a bit. I was talking to the staff to see who liked it. Derek, by the way, you said you'd never seen this movie. I can't believe. Why did you not see Titanic?
Well, I can guess how it ends. The boat sinks.
Typical Derek answer. Pretty good answer, though. It actually does sink. Spoiler alert, it does go down. But anyway, Susan loves when Kate Winslet, that's her name. I had to look at I don't know her name. Kate Winslet does the thing. Remember, Rose, she's on the end of the boat. So she did that. She just loved that. And then we have another picture. Yeah, back to that. So what I thought we would do, because this has a story behind it, folks. It's not just about me and Susan heading out with Gina and Tutwiler and her husband Tut on a boat overnight at the lake. This is more about live well, die broke. So what I thought we would do, in the studio with us is our own Gina Tutwiler to kind of tell a little bit about your family and your history. But at this stage of the game, I mean, you all are relatively young to have this nice of a boat. Why did you all do this boat? But first of all, Gina, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be with us.
Thanks for having me. Well, we have two very active children that have been in sports all their lives.
By the way, let's introduce them there.
That's Lucas on the right and Lauren on the left.
Let me stop you there real quick. What ages were they there recently? And what high schools were they going to then?
Lauren is a senior, I believe, there, and that is Assumption High School. And Lucas, that's a senior year, and that is St. X High School here.
So obviously several years ago.
Yes,
So.
yes.
Okay, so keep going. I mean, there was a lot that led up to those pictures, right?
Oh, yes. They both played sports since they were 9 years old. They played everything from basketball to softball to football. We traveled all over the country from Colorado to Las Vegas to Florida to Chicago, all over the place. Every weekend we were going somewhere. It seemed
Mainly
like.
the volleyball, or even
Mainly
things
the
for
volleyball.
Mainly the volleyball.
That kind of took us everywhere. So it was great fun. Lived a lot of weekends in the gymnasium for several years, which is how I got to where I am now. My live well, die broke boat. This is my someday. I kept saying, well, someday I would love to have a bigger boat.
Well, I don't want you to get too far ahead of yourself. Yeah, wait a minute, because I want to talk about also just the amount of time and everything. I mean, even Lauren, she ended up going and playing college volleyball, right?
Yes.
And then, for whatever reason, decided to move on. But I want you to share with the audience, because this is important here before we get to the fun stuff of the Live Well, Die Broke. Now, I know you had a good time with all that. Maybe you wouldn't change it for anything in the world, but what could you share with parents who may be watching the show that have kids younger? And we did the same thing. We had all the travel ball and AAU, and I coached all that. But what would be your summary of that whole experience, and maybe thoughts about parents who are maybe in those younger years getting ready to go down this road of all these weekends and traveling ball and et cetera?
It was great fun. We met a lot of great people and made good friends along the way. Great experiences for both kids of, a lot of different things you learn in life through sports that you don't learn in other things. So I encourage people to participate in sports. I think it's a great avenue for life. But I was happy to get out of it. I was happy to move on and get my weekends back and be able to enjoy time with my husband and be able to, because a lot of times we split the difference, and he went one way, I went the other way. We'd meet up on Sunday night, come home, do it all over again, go back to work. So it was kind of a crazy times for many years.
So now, and I think that's what kind of led you. So yeah, now go ahead and talk about why you decided at this younger age for this nice of a boat. I think it's a younger age. I'm all for it. You know me, live well, die broke. But you said, no, we're going to do this. Talk about that a minute.
Well, we had a just small ski boat for years that we'd go to the lake in and enjoy. And I'd always see all these bigger boats and lake houses. And
wait a minute, and you always wanted to buy a bigger boat. In fact, the last time you were on this show, Derek, play a reel of what Gina really hoped for on the game show Who Wants to Retire Worry-Free. Gina?
Buy a bigger boat? Well, we always rode around on our smaller boat, seeing people in bigger boats, seeing people in big lake houses, and I thought, one of these days I'd like to have one of those bigger boats, and just kind of started looking into it and seeing, what would be the cost of it, the expense of it, but it's been a great deal of fun. This is our third summer having it, and we absolutely love it.
And I could tell, and you made an interesting comment about you and Tut. You all been married a long time, but you mentioned the separation, running kids here and there and doing all that. But what was it you said, and even Tut acknowledged that, just the idea of what with weekends, just getting to spend time. Isn't that wonderful?
Just getting to spend time with each other again and just thoroughly relaxing and just enjoying each other's company again. He's worked for Toyota for 29 years. So he's been on every different shift. So there's been times when he wasn't home, wasn't around on weekends, and I was trying to juggle it all. So it's just been a great reconnection and fun for us to, pass time to have fun.
Yeah, and again, thank you once again for inviting us. You know me, I'm not a big boat guy, more of a landlubber, but golly, that was so much fun and so relaxing, and you and Tut both are just great hosts and hostesses, so thank you once again, Gina.
Well, we thoroughly enjoyed having you. Come back anytime.
Will do. Well, folks, when I come back, we're going to talk about the Bible and close out the show, and it's an interesting thought about the idea of pursuing things. Where is that fine line between pursuing things of the world and making sure we don't forget to pursue God? Gina, you know how this ends. I got to get me a cup of coffee, but thanks again. I'll be right back, folks. Looking to roll over your 401k? Then log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and learn just how easy it is to roll over and safeguard your 401k. Do it today. Earlier in the show, we featured a former judge by the name of Learned Hand who once said, "A person is not required to pay more in taxes than the law requires him to pay." In other words, if you know something is costing you money and it's legal to fix it, such as converting your tax-infested IRA or 401k to a tax-free savings plan, fix it. The same line of converting something from one thing that is causing you problems into something that doesn't is true when it comes to your spiritual walk and the subsequent peace we desire to have with God. And nowhere is the window of opportunity more evident than when we first place our faith in God and the subsequent spiritual conversion that takes place in how we view our money during this brief stay here on earth. Don't think money can get in the way of our relationship with the Lord. Check it out in 1 Timothy 6:10, which simply states, "For the love of money is a root," notice it didn't say the root, it's a root, "of all sorts of evil, and some by longing for it," I might say pursuing it, "have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many a pang." In other words, what God's Word is telling us is this: if you're perplexed as to why all of this money you and I so dearly crave and pursue is causing more pain than pleasure, maybe it's evidence that we love money more than we love the Lord. Maybe, just maybe, the cure for what ails us is not the pursuit of more money, but the pursuit of God. One of my favorite books on this subject is from a theologian by the last name of Tozer, who wrote a book simply titled The Pursuit of God, which focuses on the lost soul of a man named David whose life was in a shambles, and had this to say to his need for God in Psalm 42:1. He says, "As the deer pants for the water brook, so too my soul pants for thee, O God." You see, by nature, the deer knows he needs water to live, and the only way to quench his thirst is to get up off the couch and journey to the source of life, the water at the brook. Oh, speaking of working to find water in order to live and quench our thirst for it, there's an interesting account found in John chapter 4 where a woman who's traveled a great distance apparently to get to a water well has a chance encounter with Jesus. Surprised that Jesus asks her for a drink of water, and she is even more confounded by what he says in verse 10 where he says, "If you knew who I am, you would have asked me for a drink, and I would have given you living water." You see, friend, our souls thirst for something too, but it's not the water our bodies crave. No, our souls search for life. The only way to truly be at peace with God is to pursue the living water provided by His Spirit. Unfortunately, unless you and I are converted spiritually, we will continue to try to quench our thirst with the waters of the world by pursuing more money, more pleasures, more travel, and yes, heaven forbid, more golf.
Tony, I'd keep playing. I don't think the heavy stuff's going to come down for quite a while.
But Tony, as you say, if I stop pursuing the things of this world, what exactly is it I'm supposed to pursue? Well, we've got to go back to 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, which provides the answer. It basically says, pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, perseverance, and gentleness. And you say, well, how do we do that? How can we be converted to pursue these things rather than the things of the world? Got to go back to what Jesus says this time in Matthew chapter 18, verse 3, and he says this, "Unless you and I are converted and become like children, we'll never pursue the things of God." And maybe that's you right now, tired of pursuing things nowhere, wandering around why your soul is always feeling so thirsty, maybe searching for something deeper than what this old world can provide. Maybe you're that person that has plenty of money, but wondering why your soul still seems so troubled. Maybe the cure for what ails you is simply that you're drinking from the wrong well, and it's simply a matter of converting your thinking and pursuits from the things of this world and start pursuing God. The good news, if you approach Him like a child with childlike faith, He promises to give us living water that will not only quench our thirst now, my friend, but also forever. And that's some water you can take to the bank. Well, how about you? Do you feel like you've been drinking downstream from the rest of the financial herd and wondering why the water tastes so funny? Maybe you're that person who had no idea of the many opportunities available to you by working with a trained retirement planning specialist such as myself, someone with more than 37 years of helping thousands of savers worry less about money, someone who has converted the hearts and minds of savers from hoarding and stashing all this money away until it's too late to the live well, die broke philosophy of using and enjoying this money while you still can. So how do we help so many savers worry less about money? Well, it's called the WorryFree retirement process. And it's a 5-step process unlike anything else offered by the financial world. You know how I know this? Because I created it. And not only does it include our proprietary WorryFree retirement software for savers, it also includes 3 other highly trained salaried fiduciaries, as well as a well-trained team of service experts that have one goal in mind, and that's to help you use and enjoy this hard-earned money that you've worked so hard for before it's too late. So if you have an old 401k from a previous employer, maybe you're over the age of 59, maybe you're already retired, and yes, maybe you're that person that has a bunch of money languishing over the bank earning next to nothing in interest, we need to talk. And best of all, there is absolutely no cost, no fee, no obligation to speak with the owner of the company, myself, Tony Walker, at your convenience. And we can do it in one of 2 ways. First of all, you can log on to our website at TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on the Let's Get Started button. You'll be provided several different options and ways you might want to meet, either by phone or, of course, if it warrants, we'll be happy to meet with you at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number on your screen. And as we close out this show, I'd be remiss if I didn't have that wonderful picture of my wife, Susan, on the front of that boat doing her Titanic impersonation. And actually, accompanying her on that boat will be my favorite brother, Marty, on the flute. I hope you enjoy this.